What if I told you that your ex could collect Social Security without you ever knowing? Getting married at 59 could cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the government can force you to withdraw money from your own retirement account. All of those sound fake. They're not. Today, we're going through 9 retirement rules that millions of Americans don't discover until it's too late. Rule number 9. The IRS can force you to withdraw your own money. Meet Bob. Bob is 73. He retired a few years ago after spending 4 decades working as an electrician. His mortgage is gone, Social Security covers most of his bills, and he has nearly $600,000 sitting in his 401k. In fact, Bob has the opposite problem most retirees worry about. He doesn't actually need the money. He'd rather leave it invested for a few more years. Maybe let it grow. Maybe pass some of it on to his children one day. Perfectly reasonable, except the IRS may not give him that choice. Because once you turn 73, the government requires most retirees to start taking money out of traditional retirement accounts, whether they need the cash or not. They're called Required Minimum Distributions, or RMDs. And if Bob simply ignores the rule, the IRS doesn't just send a reminder letter. Under current rules, retirees who fail to withdraw enough can face penalties equal to 25% of the amount they should have taken out. Imagine Bob was supposed to withdraw $20,000 and decided to leave it alone for another year. The penalty alone could be $5,000. Think about how strange that is. You spent 40 years being told to save for retirement, to think long term, to avoid touching your nest egg too early. And then, at 73, the government starts telling you when you're allowed to spend your own money. And for many retirees, that's when they discover a second surprise, because the money they're forced to withdraw doesn't just leave their account, it counts as taxable income. Which brings us to rule number 8. Taking too little from your retirement accounts can increase your taxes. Meet Linda. Linda is 68. She retired with a paid-off house, Social Security on the horizon, and nearly $800,000 split between her IRA and 401k. She's careful with money, so careful, in fact, that she barely touches her retirement accounts. Every year, she tells herself the same thing. I'll leave it invested a little longer. It sounds like the responsible choice. After all, Americans spend decades hearing the same advice. Save more, invest more, let your money grow. And for a while, that's exactly what Linda does. Then she turns 73. Suddenly, the government starts calculating how much she must withdraw from those accounts each year. Linda assumes it's just paperwork. Then she sees the number. Because the years she spent avoiding withdrawals didn't eliminate the tax bill. They postponed it. And in some cases, postponing it can make the problem bigger. Larger withdrawals mean more taxable income, and for some retirees, that extra income can trigger something called IRMAA, Medicare's income surcharge. In 2026, a single retiree earning just $1 above $109,000 can pay hundreds of dollars more each year for Medicare Part B and Part D. And that's the trap. Linda spent years believing she was avoiding taxes by leaving her retirement accounts untouched. What she didn't realize was that the tax bill wasn't disappearing. It was waiting. Rule number 7. Getting married at 59 can cost you thousands. Getting married at 60 might not. Meet Carol. Carol lost her husband a few years ago. She's 59, recently retired, and after years of living alone, she's finally met someone new. They've picked a venue, sent the invitations. The wedding is only a few months away. Then Carol gets a call from a friend. Are you sure you've checked the Social Security rules? At first, she assumes it's a misunderstanding. What could her wedding date possibly have to do with her retirement? Quite a lot, it turns out. Because under Social Security rules, widows can often claim survivor benefits based on their late spouse's work record. But there's a catch. If Carol remarries before age 60, she could lose access to those survivor benefits. Wait until 60, however, and in many cases, she may be able to keep them. The relationship doesn't change. The marriage doesn't change. The only thing that changes is the date on the calendar, and depending on the size of the survivor benefit, that difference could be worth tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of retirement. Imagine discovering that moving your wedding by a few weeks could completely change your financial future. For Carol, turning 60 wasn't just another birthday, it was a deadline. Rule number 6. Couples can lose hundreds of thousands by claiming Social Security in the wrong order. Tom dies at 78. For years, he and his wife Susan had received 2 Social Security checks every month. Together, they brought in about $5,200. Susan assumes she'll continue receiving something close to that amount. Instead, one of those checks disappears. Overnight, her retirement income falls. And that's when Susan discovers something most married couples never realize. When one spouse dies, the smaller Social Security check goes away. The surviving spouse keeps the larger of the 2 benefits, which means the age at which the higher-earning spouse claims doesn't just affect today's retirement income. It can affect what the surviving spouse lives on for the rest of their life. Years earlier, Tom and Susan had faced the same question millions of couples face. Should they claim Social Security early or wait for larger monthly checks? Like most people, they focused on one question: how much money will we get while we're both alive? What they didn't realize was that there was a second question hiding underneath it. What happens after one of us is gone? Research from Fidelity suggests that delaying benefits can increase a surviving spouse's lifetime income by more than $80,000. Because when the higher earner claims early, the decision doesn't end with retirement. For Susan, it continues years later, every month. Rule number 5. Retiring at 62 doesn't mean healthcare starts at 62. Mike retires the week he turns 62. For the first time in 40 years, he has nowhere to be on Monday morning. No alarm clock, no commute, no boss. He's done the math on his savings. He's already filed for Social Security. Everything seems to line up until his old health insurance disappears. Because Mike assumes something that turns out not to be true. If you can retire at 62, healthcare must start at 62 too. It doesn't. Medicare doesn't begin for most Americans until age 65. And suddenly, Mike has a problem he never planned for. 3 years without the coverage he thought retirement automatically included. He starts looking at his options. COBRA, marketplace plans, private insurance. And then he sees the cost. For some early retirees, health insurance can run into the thousands of dollars per month before Medicare kicks in. The retirement budget Mike spent years building now has a hole in it. And the surprise isn't just the price, it's the gap itself. For decades, Mike had heard the words retirement and Medicare in the same sentence. He just never realized they started 3 years apart. The biggest retirement expense wasn't hidden in his investment account. It was hidden in the calendar. Rule number 4. The government decides when you can access your retirement money. David is 57. For decades, he's been putting money into his 401k. Lately, he's started thinking about retirement. Not retiring tomorrow, just knowing that if he needed to, the money is there. After all, it's his money. He earned it. He saved it. So he assumes he can use it whenever he wants. But retirement in America doesn't work that way. Because retirement isn't just about having enough money. It's also about reaching the right birthdays. Before age 59 and a half, taking money out of many retirement accounts can trigger penalties. At 62, Social Security can begin. At 65, Medicare starts, and at 73, the government can require retirees to start taking money back out. One birthday determines when you can access your savings. Another determines when healthcare begins. Another determines when the government wants its share. David thought retirement was a number, a dollar amount in an account. What he's starting to realize is that retirement is also a timeline. And some of the most important dates on that timeline aren't chosen by him. They're chosen for him. Rule number 3. Working while collecting Social Security can shrink your check. Mark retired at 63, at least that's what he tells people. The truth is, retirement hasn't turned out quite the way he imagined. He still does some consulting work, a few days a week, enough to stay busy and bring in some extra money. And because he's already started collecting Social Security, Mark assumes he's figured out the perfect arrangement. A paycheck and a retirement check at the same time. Then a letter arrives. Because there's a rule that catches millions of Americans by surprise. If you claim Social Security before reaching full retirement age and continue working, earning too much can temporarily reduce your benefits. In 2026, most people who haven't yet reached full retirement age can earn up to $24,480 before the earnings test kicks in. Earn more than that, and Social Security withholds $1 in benefits for every $2 above the limit. Mark sits down and does the math. Between Social Security and his consulting work, he'll make about $34,000 this year. That's nearly $10,000 above the limit, which means Social Security could temporarily withhold almost $5,000 of his benefits. Suddenly, the arrangement that looks so simple doesn't feel quite so simple anymore. Mark isn't being punished for working, and he isn't losing his benefits forever. Years later, when he reaches full retirement age, Social Security will recalculate his benefit to give him credit for the months his checks were withheld. But in that moment, it certainly feels like he's done something wrong. After spending his entire career believing retirement was the day you stop working, Mark discovers that retirement can be something much messier. Sometimes it's not the moment you stop working. It's the moment you start calling work something else. And continuing to work doesn't necessarily mean you'll receive every dollar you expected right away. Rule number 2. The biggest risk in retirement isn't the stock market. Robert retired at 65 with just over $1 million saved. His mortgage was paid off. His children were grown. For the first time in decades, he stopped thinking about work and started thinking about retirement. The math seemed straightforward. If he withdrew $40,000 a year from his portfolio, his savings should last a long time. Then one afternoon, Robert tried a retirement calculator. He entered his age, his savings, his monthly expenses, and then he clicked one box. What if I lived to 95? Suddenly the numbers looked very different, because that's the risk almost nobody spends their working life preparing for. Not a market crash, not a recession. Time. A person who retires at 65 could easily spend 30 years in retirement. 30 years of grocery bills, insurance premiums, property taxes, and medical costs. 30 years without a paycheck. Financial planners have a name for this problem: longevity risk. The risk that you simply outlive your money. And that's what surprises Robert. For decades, he thought retirement was about building the biggest nest egg possible. Now he realizes it's also about making that nest egg last longer than he does. The stock market can recover from a bad year. A portfolio can rebound after a recession, but if you run out of money at 88, there isn't another career waiting on the other side. For Robert, the biggest challenge wasn't surviving the next downturn. It was making sure his money survived him. Rule number 1. One extra day of marriage could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Sarah and Michael divorced after 9 years, 11 months, and 29 days of marriage. The paperwork was finished. They went their separate ways. And for years, that date meant nothing to Sarah. Then Michael died. That's when she learned that Social Security draws a surprisingly hard line, because divorced spouses can, in some cases, claim survivor benefits based on an ex-spouse's work record, but only if the marriage lasted at least 10 years. Not approximately 10 years, not basically 10 years, 10 years, measured down to the day. For Sarah, that missing day changed everything. Had the marriage lasted just 24 hours longer, she could have qualified for survivor benefits worth hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of retirement. Instead, she sat across from a Social Security representative and heard the answer she never expected. She didn't qualify. Not because she married the wrong person, not because she filled out the wrong paperwork, not because she'd misunderstood the rules, because her marriage ended one day too early. And that's the part that catches people off guard. 9 years and 364 days isn't enough. The relationship can be the same. The divorce can be the same. The only thing that changes is a date on a calendar. After everything we've talked about in this video, the ages, the deadlines, the penalties, the hidden rules, this may be the strangest one of all. Sometimes the difference between receiving a lifetime benefit and receiving nothing at all is 24 hours. Because in retirement, some of the most expensive mistakes aren't financial mistakes. They're calendar mistakes. If you learned something new today, let me know in the comments which rule surprised you the most. And if you want more videos that break down the retirement rules most people never hear about, make sure to subscribe.